No one at the ceremony paid attention to the woman in black, until her right wrist became visible, revealing a faded tattoo. 3 stars, a dagger, and a code no one understood. But when Admiral Richardson saw it, his face went white. "Impossible," he whispered. "She died 15 years ago." Sarah Morrison took a deep breath as she walked through the gates of Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. 15 years. She hadn't set foot on this base in 15 years. Now she was back for her son Jason's Navy SEAL graduation. Her black dress fluttered slightly in the wind, her hair carefully arranged. She had done everything she could to look like an ordinary mother. At the security checkpoint, she handed over her ID. The young sailor checked her name in the computer. "Sarah Morrison, here for the graduation?" "Yes, my son Jason Morrison is graduating today." The sailor looked up at her, then back at his screen. Something flickered across his face. Confusion, perhaps. But he handed back her ID without comment. "Parking is to the right. The ceremony starts in an hour." Sarah nodded, taking back her identification with steady hands. As she walked toward the parking area, she was acutely aware of her surroundings. Old habits, the way she automatically cataloged exits, assessed potential threats, noted the positions of security cameras. Things a suburban mother shouldn't notice. The graduation venue was already filling with proud families. Fathers in crisp suits, mothers in sundresses, siblings holding congratulatory banners. Sarah found a seat near the back, away from the clusters of chattering families. She preferred the shadows, even now. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Sarah looked up to see a woman in her 30s, wearing a bright floral dress and holding a baby. "No, please sit," Sarah replied softly. "I'm Jennifer. My husband Mark is graduating today. We're so proud." The woman beamed. "Is your husband graduating too?" "My son," Sarah corrected gently. "Oh, how wonderful. You must be so proud. These men go through hell to earn that trident." The graduates began filing in, and Sarah's breath caught. There he was, Jason, her baby boy, now a warrior. He looked so much like his father it hurt, the same angular jaw, the same intense eyes. But he had her precision, her ability to remain unnaturally still when everyone else fidgeted. She had watched from afar as he grew up, through carefully orchestrated glimpses and reports from handlers. She had wanted to stop him when he enlisted, wanted to scream that he didn't understand what he was signing up for. But that would have blown her cover, and her cover was the only thing keeping them both alive. "Distinguished guests, families, and our newest Navy SEALs," Admiral Richardson began. "Today we celebrate not just the end of training, but the beginning of a legacy." Her hand unconsciously moved to her right wrist, rubbing the fabric over the tattoo. A nervous habit she thought she had broken. That's when she felt eyes on her. Admiral Richardson had paused mid-sentence, his gaze locked on her from across the venue. At first, she thought it was her imagination. There were hundreds of people here. Why would he notice her? But his stare remained fixed, his face slowly draining of color. Sarah kept her expression neutral, but her pulse quickened. As the graduates were called forward to receive their tridents, she watched Jason step up with pride and terror warring in her chest. "Petty Officer Jason Morrison," the announcer called. Her son stepped forward, and the SEAL instructor pinned the trident to his chest, then punched it in, the traditional blooding of the pin. Jason didn't flinch. Sarah's heart swelled with pride, even as it broke a little. He was officially one of them now, part of the brotherhood she had been forced to leave behind. As Jason returned to formation, his eyes swept the crowd, looking for her. When their gazes met, he smiled, a quick, private moment between mother and son. "Sarah Morrison?" She turned to find a young lieutenant at her elbow. His expression was carefully neutral, but she could see the tension in his posture. "Yes?" Admiral Richardson would like a word with you, ma'am. Privately. Sarah's mind ran through options quickly. Run? That would blow her cover completely. Comply? That might lead to complications. But Jason was walking toward her now, his face bright with accomplishment. Tell the Admiral I'll be happy to speak with him after I congratulate my son, she said calmly. The lieutenant looked like he wanted to insist, but Jason arrived, sweeping his mother into a hug. You made it, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Mrs. Morrison? She turned to find Master Chief Ramirez, a man she recognized, but who shouldn't recognize her. When she had known him, he'd been a young petty officer in a different team, on a different coast. Master Chief, she nodded. Thank you for taking care of my son. Ramirez studied her face intently. He's a good man, strong swimmer, excellent marksman, natural tactical thinking. He paused. Reminds me of someone I knew once. His father was military, Sarah offered, the lie smooth and practiced. Interesting, Ramirez said slowly. The way he holds himself, certain techniques. I would have guessed his mother. The group had gone quiet. Jason looked confused by the sudden tension. You need to leave, he said quietly, once they were out of earshot. Now. I don't understand. Sarah maintained her cover, even as her muscles tensed for action. Cut the act, Ramirez said sharply. I was in Mogadishu. I saw you extract our team when everyone else had written us off. You saved 12 men that night. Sarah's expression didn't change. You're mistaking me for someone else. Ghost operators don't make mistakes, and neither do I. He glanced back toward the crowd where Richardson was now moving purposefully in their direction. They think you're dead. Your file is sealed so tight it might as well be in a black hole. Whatever happened, whoever made you disappear, they did it for a reason. She made it to her rental car and slid behind the wheel. In the rearview mirror, she could see Ramirez intercepting Richardson, gesturing back toward the ceremony, buying her time. As she drove toward the base exit, Sarah's hands were steady on the wheel, but her heart was breaking. She had known this day might come, had prepared for it, but that didn't make it easier. Jason would be hurt, confused. He wouldn't understand why his mother had vanished from his graduation. At the gate, she held her breath as the guard checked her ID. For a moment, she thought he would wave her through. Then his computer beeped. Ma'am, I need you to pull over to the inspection area. The plane touched down in Denver 6 hours later. Sarah, though she was no longer Sarah, made her way through the airport with practiced ease. She'd switched identities twice more during layovers, a shell game that would confuse even experienced trackers. Now she was Linda Chen, a marketing consultant from Seattle. She rented a car with cash and drove to a motel 40 miles outside the city. The kind of place that didn't ask questions and didn't have cameras in the parking lot. Only when she was secure in her room, curtains drawn, did she finally check her messages. 17 missed calls from Jason. Her heart clenched as she listened to his voicemails. She dialed a number from memory, one she hadn't used in over a decade. Pete's Pizza, a bored voice answered. I need a large pepperoni with extra olives, Sarah said carefully. Silence, then, we don't deliver to that area anymore. The customer is very insistent. A longer pause. Hold, please. The line clicked, went through several transfers. Finally, a familiar voice came on. Well, holy shit. Ghost rises from the grave. Hello, Marcus, Sarah said quietly. Marcus Webb had been her handler once upon a time, one of the few people who knew Sarah Mitchell was still breathing. You were supposed to stay dead, Marcus said. That was the deal. She drove through the night, switching cars twice, following old tradecraft that came back like muscle memory. By dawn, she was in Montana, at a storage facility she'd maintained under yet another identity. The unit looked abandoned from the outside, dusty and forgotten. But the locks were well oiled, the security system still active. Inside, past boxes of meaningless junk that served as camouflage, was a hidden compartment. Sarah opened it and stared at her past. Weapons, cash and multiple currencies, passports, communication equipment, and in a sealed case, the dress uniform of Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell, complete with ribbons and the trident she'd earned before women were officially allowed in the SEALs. She pulled out a encrypted satellite phone and dialed. "It's me," she said, when Jason answered on the first ring. "Don't say my name." "Jesus, sure. Where are you? There are people here." "Listen carefully," Sarah interrupted. "In about 10 minutes, military police are going to triangulate this call. They'll know where I am. When they get here, I'll surrender peacefully. But first, you need to hear something." "Mom, what's going on?" Sarah took a deep breath. "I'm not who you think I am. Your mother, Sarah Morrison, doesn't exist. My name is Sarah Mitchell, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell. And until 15 years ago, I was something called a ghost operator." She could hear vehicles approaching, the distinctive sound of military trucks. "They're here," she said calmly. "Jason, I need you to know I'm proud of you, prouder than you can imagine. You became everything good your father and I tried to be." "Don't do this," Jason pleaded. "Don't just give up." "I'm not giving up. I'm choosing the mission. Protecting you has always been my mission." Sarah stood, straightening her civilian clothes. "I love you, son. Remember that, no matter what you hear in the coming days." She ended the call and walked outside, hands visible but not raised. The parking lot was filling with vehicles, military police, unmarked SUVs, even a helicopter circling overhead. "Admiral," one of the MPs called out, "someone's approaching at high speed." A single motorcycle roared into the parking lot, skidding to a stop just outside the perimeter. Jason, still in his dress blues from graduation, dismounted and pushed through the security line. "Let him through," Richardson ordered, curious. Jason reached his mother, breathing hard. "I went to Portland, found the storage unit." His eyes were red-rimmed, but determined. "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me?" He pulled something from his pocket, a photo, worn and creased. It showed a younger Sarah in tactical gear standing beside a man who was unmistakably Jason's father. Both wore the confident grins of operators who thought they were invincible. The secure briefing room at Coronado was windowless and swept for surveillance twice daily. Sarah sat at one end of the conference table, no longer in restraints but clearly still in custody. Jason sat beside her, having refused to leave despite multiple suggestions that his presence was unnecessary. Admiral Richardson occupied the head of the table, with Captain Torres and Master Chief Ramirez filling out the group. For 3 hours Sarah had been talking, every detail of Operation Blackwater, every name, every crime witnessed, every reason she'd been marked for death, the assassination of civilian witnesses, the execution of children who'd seen too much, the orders that came from so high up the chain of command that challenging them meant career suicide, or actual suicide. "So what happens now?" Jason asked. Richardson was quiet for a long moment. "What happens now is complicated. Officially, Sarah Mitchell is still dead. Resurrecting her would raise questions we might not want answered. But Sarah Morrison technically doesn't exist either. Her entire identity is fabricated." "Sir," Torres interjected, "Senator Williams is scheduled to visit Coronado next week. Routine inspection of special operations training." The room went silent as the implications sank in. "That's interesting timing," Richardson said slowly. Sarah understood immediately. "You want to use me as bait." "I want to explore options that protect national security while addressing potential war crimes," Richardson corrected. "If Williams sees you, alive, after all these years." The morning of Williams' visit dawned clear and bright. Sarah positioned herself at the outdoor training area where the senator's tour would pass. She wore civilian clothes but moved with purpose, clipboard in hand, playing the role of a contractor evaluating training protocols. She felt him before she saw him, that prickle of awareness that had saved her life countless times. Williams rounded the corner with his entourage, aides, security, base personnel providing the tour. He looked older, grayer, but still carried himself with the arrogance of untouchable power. Sarah turned at just the right moment, letting him get a clear view of her profile. She saw the exact instant recognition hit. Williams stumbled mid-step, his face draining of color. "He's spooked," the FBI liaison reported, "making calls from his vehicle. We're tracking everything." Sarah waited in the command center, watching the surveillance feeds. Williams was unraveling. 15 years of carefully constructed safety crumbling because a ghost had walked past him on a sunny morning. "He just called Webb," an analyst announced, demanding to know if the problem from Somalia was really handled. "And Webb's response?" Richardson asked. "Told him he was being paranoid. That Mitchell died 15 years ago. He saw the body himself." Sarah smiled grimly. Webb was playing his part perfectly, gaslighting Williams into making more desperate moves. By evening, Williams had made 17 calls to various contacts, each more frantic than the last. 3 days later, Sarah stood in the command vehicle watching monitors as federal agents surrounded the compound. Williams was inside with 6 other men, including 2 active military officers, a defense contractor, and 3 CIA personnel who'd helped orchestrate the cover-up. "Audio coming online," a technician reported. Williams' voice filled the vehicle, tight with fear. "Saw her with my own eyes. Sarah Mitchell is alive." "Impossible," another voice argued. "We confirmed the kill. DNA evidence." "Faked. Had to be. Which means someone helped her. Someone inside." Sarah listened as they discussed their options. Elimination plans, cover stories. The same playbook they'd used 15 years ago. But this time, every word was being recorded by multiple agencies. Sarah was already out of the vehicle, walking toward the compound. She heard shouts behind her, orders to stop, but kept walking. 15 years of waiting, of hiding, of fear crystallized into this moment. She reached the main door just as the security team noticed her. Weapons came up, red dots dancing across her chest. "Senator Williams," she called out, her voice carrying clearly. "It's time we talked." Silence from inside. Then Williams' voice over an intercom. "You're supposed to be dead." "Disappointed?" Sarah asked, echoing her words to Richardson. "You killed my husband. You killed my teammates. You tried to kill me. But here's the thing about ghosts, Senator. We have a way of coming back to haunt you." When the smoke cleared, 5 conspirators were in custody. One was dead, had chosen suicide over capture, and Williams himself was wounded, bleeding from a gunshot to the shoulder as agents dragged him out. He saw Sarah standing by the command vehicle and laughed bitterly. "You think this changes anything? You think justice exists for people like us? I have connections, lawyers, senators who owe me—" "You have nothing," Sarah cut him off. "Your connections are running for cover. Your bank accounts are frozen. Your reputation is about to be destroyed. And those senators you mentioned, they're already distancing themselves." She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the weight of 15 years in her eyes. 6 months later, Sarah stood once again at Coronado, but this time in dress whites. The ceremony was small, private, just the people who knew the truth about Sarah Mitchell and her 15 years in the shadows. Admiral Richardson read the citation. "For extraordinary heroism and sacrifice in the face of enemy action, both foreign and domestic. For upholding the highest traditions of naval service, even while officially deceased. For bringing justice to those who betrayed their oath and their nation. He pinned the Navy Cross to her uniform, the medal she should have received 15 years ago. Next to it sat her newly awarded Intelligence Star, recognizing her years of protecting national security from the shadows. After the ceremony, Sarah walked with Jason to the beach. The sun was setting over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "So what now?" Jason asked. "Back to active duty?" "Actually," Sarah said, "I've accepted a position with Naval Intelligence, training the next generation of ghost operators. Turns out my experience being dead for 15 years is considered valuable. And Sarah Morrison? She served her purpose, kept my son safe, gave him a chance at a normal life. I'll always be grateful to her." Sarah smiled. "But I think it's time to be Sarah Mitchell again. All of her, not just the parts that fit into a neat service record."